al-Qaeda went to Syria, became ISIS, and ISIS is what it is today, thanks to Barack Obama's failures, utter failures, by pulling everybody out of Iraq, thinking that conflict's in just because we leave.
Now, of course, as we pointed out earlier, John McCain tweeted out then that he shouldn't have blamed it directly on Barack Obama, but he stuck to his guns about the failed policies, and I think it was certainly a fair criticism. Joining us now is Julio Rivera, host of the Julio Rivera Show on Spreaker.com, Newsmax insider, and also, of course, conservative activist. Good to see you, my friend.
How are you,
Happy
Steve?
Father's Day in advance.
Happy Father's Day to you,
yeah,
Steve.
and to all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. All right, so let's talk a little bit about McCain here. I mean, while the Homeland Security chief and Obama and the rest of the left is blaming this on guns, I mean, John McCain, he didn't go far enough. He should have blamed it on Obama and Hillary, who's also part of that, because she was Secretary of State. They took all the troops out of Iraq. They didn't get a SOFA on purpose. They could have left some troops there. They called ISIS a JV team, and now look where we are.
Well, listen, liberals are in their second childhood. They don't want to be accountable for whenever anything goes wrong. And at this point, I mean, the buck stops with Barack Obama. They're allowing refugees in here. Hillary Clinton was talking about allowing up to 65,000 refugees when we've already taken, I believe it was 10,000.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculously high number when you've already considered what occurred in Europe. Europe's out of control. It's on fire.
It's lost. The CIA director, Brennan, yesterday said that ISIS is smuggling people in as refugees. So we know that. We know that, and we have a president who still says, I'm not going to stop bringing them in, and blames it on guns.
And they actually, ISIS has the ability to make undetectable passports because they've taken control of a lot of the infrastructure in the countries that they're in. So God knows who's getting here. And listen, the FBI director said it last year. There's no possible way to vet who's coming into this country. It's like playing Russian roulette. You pull the trigger, you might not get killed, or you might get killed.
So where do you stand on Trump's proposed ban? Or temporary ban on Muslims and Muslims coming from countries that have a terrorism problem.
This is what I think with that. And he did say that earlier on, that we should stop refugees from coming here. I agree 150%. But what I want to see from Mr. Trump is let's stick to that. Let's not backtrack and then later say, well, some of them can come or whatever. I just want consistency with that. I would be happy to stop all refugees until we get a handle on the problem. And it's impossible to, because we have displaced people from one region of the Middle East coming to another. You're never going to really know. And think about it. Why should America take refugees? I mean, what's the reason why? Why are we responsible for the problems of the rest of the world?
Well, the left and the media in cahoots, as they are, would have you believe that these people have a constitutional right to be here, or we can't constitutionally keep them out, which is nonsense. It's made up. Made up. Where in the Constitution does an immigrant or a foreigner have a right to come to this country?
That's funny. So in our Constitution, according to liberals, foreigners can come here, but we can't have the Second Amendment or the Fourth Amendment. Or the Fourth Amendment's limited to rice paper filled out with quill pens, and it's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Let's get to some phone calls for Julio and myself. 877 Newsmax, and first we go to Keysville, Virginia, and welcome in John. Hello, John.
How are you today?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm not doing good because I can't stand what's going on with this country. This president stood up there yesterday and knocked what isn't wrong with the country but gun control. The problem that I see is that this president really doesn't care about the people of this country. On August 5th, 2014, there was a Major General Green killed by the Taliban. And instead of going to his funeral, he was out playing golf. But he went to this Brown's funeral with...
Well, he didn't go to Michael. He didn't go to Michael Brown's funeral. He sent 3, I think, representatives. Yeah, it's curious the way Julio that he picks and chooses where he sends representatives and where he goes. Now he went down yesterday, which we expected, but he couldn't bring himself to go to Scalia's funeral. He didn't go to Margaret Thatcher's funeral. He doesn't go to cops' funerals. He's a very I'll just say he doesn't share the values that most Americans share. I mean, I have no problem saying that. I'm not saying he's not American. I'm not saying he's not Christian. He just is different than a lot of Americans are. Not black, just different.
Americans. And Americans are Americans, but Barack Obama, to me, is blatantly unpatriotic for being the president of our country. I mean, we saw this with his behavior in Cuba.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah.
You know, and that was during the day, I believe, of the Brussels.
Yes.
He
at the ball game.
He was at the ball game. He was posing in front of Che Guevara's mural.
Yeah.
And he gave 51 seconds of his speech that day towards a terrorist
Yeah,
act.
and the rest he went on to business as usual.
Yeah.
At Fort Hood, when the Fort Hood attack occurred, he came out, he was speaking to an American Indian group, and he gave shout-outs to Chief this one, Chief that one, and then, oh, by the way, there was a shooting at Fort Hood. It took him 2 minutes to acknowledge the shooting at Fort Hood from when he started. He's just not like any other president we've ever had, and that has nothing to do with his color. I appreciate the call, John. Thank you. Let's go to Mark, who is in Kansas City, Missouri, home of the world champion Kansas City Royals. Hello, Mark. Mark, I say that because Julio's a big Mets fan, and I root for the Mets myself.
Well, I'm going to talk about maybe one of Julio's relations. You know, the Democrats and people like Julio Rivera have taken the term rifle, and then they turn rifle into assault weapon. Then later on they call it a military assault weapon. Then they change that to a military assault automatic weapon. And then yesterday, the quote from Geraldo was to military assault automatic machine gun. Now, these rifles are just like your dad or grandpa's hunting rifle. They just have a costume dress on them and make them look mean and nasty. But the reality is they shoot one bullet at a time. So they're just like grandpa's gun. They just have a nasty, mean-looking cosmetic design to them.
They have the magazines which have a lot of bullets in them, but you're right. You have to pull the trigger for each individual shot. They're not automatic. And I doubt, Julio, that Geraldo is related to you.
No, he's not. But you know what? They're trying to, like, they don't want guns to be a normal part of our culture anymore. They want us to be like the rest of the world. One of the things that separated America from the rest of the world was the fact that we had the Second Amendment. You couldn't really invade the mainland United States, because everyone had a gun. Right. But nowadays, it's going to change right now, and the rest of the world realizes that. And now with this refugee, influx that we have, we're basically sitting ducks. We're looking to be victims, unfortunately, in this Barack Obama fundamental transformation.
Mark, I appreciate the call. What do you make of the fact? And Donald Trump has said this, and again, Obama. Who exploited the ceremony yesterday, exploited a meeting with those families, came out and talked about guns for minutes and minutes and minutes.
Politicizing everything.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. He just should have said, I met with the families, we laid the wreath, our hearts are bleeding, blah, blah, and left. But, the fact of the matter is that this guy not only loaded and unloaded, and one witness said his gun jammed, and he actually said, I have plenty of time. He was in there for hours killing these people, calling people, Facebooking people. If somebody or multiple people in there were licensed to carry guns and had guns on them, maybe there wouldn't have been 50 dead. Maybe there would have been 10 dead. I'm just saying, you put up a gun-free zone, and it's an advertisement like in your house. Hang up a sign on your house saying, door is open, no locks, no alarm, and see what happens.
Exactly. It's like people, unfortunately, and liberals have no common sense. And this is unfortunately what we have to deal with when you elect a Democratic president. If we get Hillary Clinton, by the end of her first term, there's probably going to be no Second Amendment, or we're going to be severely limited in our ability to be able to defend ourselves. And listen, this is something that came out. The LGBT group, I believe it was in Phoenix, Arizona, endorsed Donald Trump.
Yep.
Because they understand nobody wants to be a victim anymore.
Let me tell you something. Somebody told me that at the Stonewall memorial service that they had here in the city, Stonewall was the place of the uprising that was the forerunner of the gay movement, the riots there, and they said that a lot of the gays there were ticked off and shouting the fact that they were ticked off because it was politicians, and all they did was talk about guns. And they were angry that they made this into a gun thing when it was supposed to be memorial for the victims. People were shouting out, read the names, shut up, stop talking about guns. I think Trump will get, although there were reports that Facebook banned some transsexuals for Trump pages and gays for Trump pages, that Twitter took down reports, a hashtag of gays for Trump. But I think Trump will get a lot of gays and lesbians and transgenders who say, hey, we deserve the right to protect ourselves, and this is not about a gun. This is about a philosophy, radical Islam, where all over the world their philosophy is kill gays.
Yeah, I think if one thing that radical Islam and these attacks are going to bring to the forefront for everyone is the fact that we all have a fundamental God-given right to defend ourselves. And the Constitution protects that. If you're an individual like a gay or a transgender, that's what the Constitution is really, to protect people like them who are different.
Right. No, absolutely. All right. But coming back, we have another segment. We have Gimme 5 coming up, and a little more with Julio, and a couple of calls, all straight ahead. I don't know, that's catchy music. I don't know what you think. Me and Julio think it's pretty catchy. Julio Rivera rejoins us, host of the Julio Rivera Show on Spreaker.com. Check it out. He's also a Newsmax insider and conservative activist. And we're going to the phones before I get to the Gimme 5. And let's say hello to Jim from New Castle, Ohio. Hi, Jim.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, sir.
Of course, I'm 100% a Trump supporter. I almost wanted to laugh at Obama down there yesterday when he went down there supposedly to offer sympathy to the families of the dead and to the injured.
And he made it a political speech. Yep.
Made a political speech. All he did was get on and make a political speech. He really wanted to offer he's been sincere about that. He'd also said something about that poor girl that got killed a couple of days before this, and also about the little fellow that got dragged in the water by the alligator.
Yeah.
Instead, he'd going to spend 25 minutes making an anti-gun.
Yep. Just disgraceful. It's what he does. It's who he is. And it's all about him. And he has to be right. And what could I say? What could I say? He should have just given a decent, polite statement. Mm-hmm. I met with the families. We keep it private. We're honored to be here to honor the family. And left. But instead, everything is politics to him. He's the great divider. Jim, I thank you. Julio, we got a minute left.
Yes.
With you, and I just want to ask you. You were a Cruz supporter. Mm-hmm. You're kind of on board with Trump to an extent. What about these rumors that they want to change the rules at the convention so that the delegates don't have to vote for Trump even though they're committed to them? You want them to change the rules?
Well, it's not necessarily a rules change. What happens is when the 2016 convention starts, the rules of the previous convention expire. The delegates are never bound.
We only have 30. So do you? But you want them? Would you like to see the rules then changed? Modified, whatever you want to say. You want to see a different strategy so that these delegates are free?
I think, right? The delegates, the candidates are changing in real time. So if the delegates, I'd like to see them unbound. But that's not to say that Trump wouldn't have 1237. Right. He probably has enough support regardless.
Right. Well, I just think if they try to do that, all hell's going to break loose. But anyway, Julio Rivera, always good to see you, my friend. We thank you very much, and we'll see you again very, very soon.